You are listening to the story, Raised to be His Bride. Let's listen and practice your English listening skill. You can shadow to practice your speaking too. Now let's start. Chapter 1. A Deal Signed in Tears. When I was 7, my world fell apart in one night. My name is Emma Carter, and at the time, I lived in a small house with creaky floors and warm sunlight in the kitchen. My mom, Claire, used to sing while cooking, and my dad, Jack, always had this tired but loving smile. We didn't have much, but we had each other. Until the debt came. I didn't understand all the details then. All I knew was that my dad owed a lot of money to someone powerful, someone who didn't forgive easily. His name was Daniel West. At 24, he was already the CEO of West Holdings, the richest man in the city. People called him the Ice King because of his cold face and colder heart. He never smiled, never flinched, just made deals and crushed competitors. I had never heard of him before that night. But once I met him, I would never forget him. It happened on a rainy evening. Thunder cracked the sky, and I was curled up on our torn couch with my favorite stuffed bunny. The door slammed open. I jumped. My dad stepped inside, soaked and shaking, with two men in black suits behind him. One of them was Daniel. He was tall and sharp like a blade. His black coat was spotless. His eyes, gray and unreadable, swept through the room. They landed on me, just for a second, and something in my chest tightened. My mom rushed in, her face pale. "Jack, what's going on?" My dad fell to his knees. Right there, in front of all of us. "I'm sorry," he said, choking on the words. "I couldn't pay it back. I tried. I swear I tried." Daniel didn't even blink. He stepped forward, placed a folder on the table, and opened it slowly. "There's one way to settle this," he said, voice low and calm, colder than the rain outside. "Give me your daughter." Silence. I thought I had heard wrong. My mom gasped. "What are you talking about? She's just a child." Daniel didn't look at her. "She will come with me. I will raise her, educate her, protect her. And when she turns 18, she will marry me." My heart dropped. Marriage? I was 7. I didn't even know what that meant. All I knew was that this scary man wanted to take me away. "No," my mom cried. "That's insane. She's our daughter." My dad grabbed her hand. "Claire, please. If we don't, we'll lose everything. He'll take the house, the shop. We'll be ruined." My mom shook her head, tears falling. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Daniel said. Then he looked at me. "Not like a person. Like a promise. Like a deal sealed in silence. She'll have a better life with me. Private schools. Safety. She won't want for anything. Except her parents." I didn't understand business. I didn't understand debt. But I understood one thing. I was being given away. Like a payment. That night, I packed a small suitcase. My mom brushed my hair, crying the whole time. My dad couldn't even look at me. I hugged my bunny tight. I didn't want to cry, but my chest hurt so badly, I thought it would break. Daniel was waiting outside in a black car. One of his men opened the door. I turned back one last time. "Mom, Dad." My mom knelt and hugged me tight. "You're brave, baby. So brave. Be strong, okay?" I nodded, trying to be strong. But I was just a kid. I got in the car. The door closed, and everything I had ever known faded into the rain. The drive was silent. I sat in the back seat with my hands folded in my lap, shaking. Daniel didn't speak. He stared out the window like I wasn't even there. I peeked at him once. His face was perfect, like those models in magazines. But he looked empty. Not mean, just distant, like nothing could touch him. He finally spoke when we pulled into a giant gate. "This is your new home." The mansion looked like something from a fairy tale, huge, white, glowing with lights. It should have felt magical. It felt like a cage. That was the night my old life ended. And the night my story with Daniel West began. He didn't say it then, but I saw it in his eyes. This wasn't about love. It was about revenge. About pride. About a deal written in desperation. And I was the price. But what no one knew, not even Daniel, was that I wouldn't just grow up under his roof. One day, I would steal his heart. Chapter 2. A Cage Made of Gold. Daniel's mansion was massive, bigger than anything I had ever seen. Marble floors that shone like mirrors. Walls lined with paintings. Chandeliers that sparkled like stars. But to me, it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like a place where I wasn't supposed to speak. Or run. Or cry. The first night, I was shown to a big bedroom with a canopy bed and shelves full of toys I didn't recognize. A kind-looking housekeeper named Maria tucked me in. She smiled, but her eyes were sad, like she already knew I was lonely. She said Daniel had ordered everything, down to the nightlight shaped like a bunny. He didn't come to see me that night. He didn't come the next day either. For a while, I didn't see him at all. Instead, there were tutors, nannies, a personal piano teacher. Everyone treated me gently, but formally. Like I was precious, but not loved. Weeks passed. I followed the schedule they gave me. Wake up at 7. Breakfast, lessons, etiquette, piano, reading, lights out at 9. It was like a princess routine, but I didn't feel like a princess. I felt like a doll someone placed in a glass case. Sometimes, I heard Daniel's voice in the hallway, low and commanding. Once, I saw him on the stairs, walking down in a black suit, phone in hand. He didn't see me, or maybe he did, but chose not to look. At night, I clutched my stuffed bunny and stared at the ceiling, wondering if my parents missed me. If they were okay, if they regretted giving me away. But I never cried in front of anyone. If I cried, I thought, Daniel would win. He would see that I was weak. And I didn't want that. I didn't want him to think I was something he could control. One day, months later, I finally asked Maria something that had been stuck in my chest for a long time. Why did Mr. West take me? She hesitated, wiped her hands on her apron, then said softly, I think he made a decision he thought would make things right. But maybe he forgot that you're not a decision. You're a little girl. That night, for the first time, Daniel came to my room. I was reading on the bed, frozen when he opened the door. He stepped inside, hands in his pockets, watching me like he was studying something far away. Are you okay? He asked. I nodded quickly. He looked around the room. His voice stayed flat. Is there anything you need? No, I said quietly. Everything's fine. He stood there in silence. Then turned to go. But just before he reached the door, I asked the question I'd wanted to ask since the first day. Do you hate my dad? He stopped. I don't know, he said after a long pause. I hated what he did. What did he do? He betrayed me. Then he left, closing the door behind him. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if I believed him. But I remembered the pain in my dad's face the night he handed me over. And I remembered Daniel's eyes. Cold, but empty. Years passed like that. I grew up under Daniel's roof. Went to the best schools, wore designer clothes, learned how to speak 3 languages. People envied me, called me lucky, a foster girl raised by a billionaire. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know that I never once called him dad, or guardian, or anything at all. He was just Daniel, and I was just waiting. Waiting for the day I turned 18. Waiting for the moment the deal would become real. Waiting for the day he would look at me not as a debt, not as a burden, but as something more. One winter evening, when I was 13, I walked past his study and saw the door cracked open. Inside, he sat alone, staring at an old photo. A younger version of him stood beside a man who looked like my dad. They were smiling. That was when I understood. They had once been friends. I stood there for a long time, watching Daniel stare at the past. I wondered if he regretted everything. If he still felt the weight of the deal he made. But when he finally looked up and saw me, his expression turned to stone again. You shouldn't be wandering the halls at night, he said. I nodded and walked away. But that night, something shifted. For the first time, I didn't see him as just the man who took me away. I saw the man behind the ice. And I wondered, if he had a heart, where was it hiding? Chapter 3. Cold hands, warmer eyes. By the time I turned 16, I had lived in Daniel West's mansion for 9 years. I had memorized every corner of it, every creak in the floorboards, every hallway where his footsteps echoed late at night. We didn't speak much. He was busy running an empire. I was busy trying to be the perfect version of whatever he expected me to be. Polished, graceful, silent, but sometimes, our paths crossed. Like that afternoon in the garden, when I was sketching under the cherry tree. I had my pencil between my fingers, lost in the curve of a flower petal, when his shadow stretched across my page. I looked up. He was watching me, hands in his pockets, as if surprised I could draw. You're good, he said. Thanks, I murmured. He crouched down beside me, not touching anything. Just looking. Why flowers? Because they don't talk, I said. They don't lie. They don't leave. There was a pause. I didn't know why I said that. Maybe I wanted him to feel guilty. Maybe I wanted him to feel anything. He didn't respond, just stood again, taller than the sky, and walked away. I stared after him, wondering if he even remembered that I had once been a little girl in pigtails, crying into her bunny. He acted like I had always been this composed version of myself. Calm, smart, controlled. But the truth was, I was still waiting. Waiting to understand why I was really here. Was it guilt, power, revenge, or something else neither of us could name? On my 16th birthday, he didn't forget. He never forgot dates, not birthdays, not contract deadlines, not anything. There was no party, just a small gift box left on my nightstand. Inside was a silver necklace with a tiny charm shaped like a feather. It was beautiful, delicate. There was no note. I wore it anyway. That morning at breakfast, I found him sitting at the long dining table. A rare sight. Usually, he was gone before I came downstairs. He glanced up when I entered. "Happy birthday." "Thank you," I said, surprised he said it out loud. "Did you like the necklace?" "Yes. It's beautiful." "Good." He went back to his coffee. The moment passed like mist in sunlight. But for some reason, my heart beat faster. That year, something started changing between us. It wasn't spoken. It wasn't obvious. But it was there. Little things. He started asking about my classes, my drawings, my friends at school. Sometimes he'd sit at the piano while I played, pretending to check emails. Once, I caught him watching me from the balcony when I danced in the studio. And once, when I caught my finger on a paper edge, he reached over and held my hand. Just for a second. His fingers were cool and smooth, and he looked down at the tiny drop of blood on my skin like it mattered. Like I mattered. Then he let go. "Be careful, Emma." It was the first time he'd said my name in months. Late one night, I walked into the kitchen to grab a glass of water. I didn't think anyone would be there. But Daniel was sitting alone at the counter, sipping scotch, eyes locked on the dark. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, not looking at me. I shrugged. "Bad dream." He nodded. "Happens to the best of us." I sat across from him, legs swinging under the stool. He looked tired, not in the way people look after a long day. Tired like something in him had been tired for years. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Go ahead. Why did you really take me?" He didn't answer right away. He swirled the amber liquid in his glass, staring into it like it held a better version of the past. "Because your father made a choice that destroyed everything I trusted. I wanted to punish him. And taking you felt like justice." My throat tightened. "So I was just revenge?" "At first, yes. What about now?" His eyes finally met mine. "Now, I don't know what you are." The silence between us grew loud. But in that silence, something fragile took root. An understanding, maybe even a beginning. Weeks passed. Spring turned to summer. I saw less of him again. He traveled often, meetings and business dinners in cities I'd only seen in movies. But every time he left, I felt it. The empty space he left behind. The echo of him. And every time he returned, I caught myself watching the door, listening for his steps. I hated that part of me. The part that waited. The part that wondered what it would feel like to matter to him, not as a deal, not as a burden, but as a woman. A real one. Not a little girl he promised to marry someday because of a debt. But someone he could choose now. Freely. One night, as I stood at the window, staring at the city lights, I whispered to my reflection. 2 more years. 2 more years, and I would be 18. 2 more years, and the deal would come due. But I didn't want to be part of a deal. I wanted to be the one who changed everything. Including him. Chapter 4. Close enough to touch. By the time I turned 17, I had learned one truth about Daniel West. He noticed everything. He noticed when I wore new shoes. When I skipped a meal. When I looked out the window too long. He never said much about it, but his silence was never empty. It carried weight, like the day I got my acceptance letter to the summer art program in Florence. I found the envelope on the kitchen counter after school. I opened it with shaking hands. When I saw the word, "Congratulations," I screamed. Maria rushed in from the hallway. I hugged her like I hadn't been this happy in years. Daniel walked in a few minutes later, briefcase in hand, loosening his tie. "What's all this?" I held up the letter. "I got in. The Florence program. They only take 10 students a year. I made it." He nodded slowly, looked at the paper like it was a stock report. Not impressed, not uninterested, just calculating. "How long is the program?" 6 weeks. In Italy. And you'd go alone?" "Yes." He was quiet for a moment. Then said one word. "No." My heart dropped. "Why not?" "It's not safe. It's a supervised school program. I'd be in a group the whole time. It's not about the program." "Then what is it about?" He looked at me. Really looked. And I saw it. Just for a second. A flicker of fear behind his cold expression. "You're still a minor, Emma. I'll be 18 next year. Next year isn't this year." I clenched the letter in my fist. "I've worked for this. You said you wanted me to have opportunities. This isn't about opportunity. It's about distance." He said it so quietly I almost didn't hear him. "Distance?" He turned away. We'll find you a different program. I stared at him. You don't want me to leave because you're afraid I won't come back. He didn't deny it. That night, I cried into my pillow. Not just because he said no, but because he cared. And I hated that it mattered so much to me. 2 weeks later, he came home early from work. He found me painting on the balcony, sunlight in my hair, brushes everywhere. He stood there a long time, then said, "The art program. You can go." I blinked. What? I already spoke to the coordinator. You'll have a bodyguard, a private apartment, everything covered. Why did you change your mind? Because I trust you. He stepped closer. I could smell his cologne. Clean, expensive, familiar. But I don't trust the world, he said. So I'll protect you, even from afar. I nodded slowly. Thank you. He reached out like he wanted to touch my face, but stopped himself. You deserve it. And then he left, like always, before I could say the words stuck in my throat. Florence was a dream. I painted every day, walked through streets that smelled like coffee and old stone, laughed with other students, wrote postcards I never sent. But every night, I thought about him. Wondered if he missed me. Wondered if he thought about the girl he had raised to someday be his wife. One night, I video called him. He answered on the first ring. Are you okay? I smiled. I'm good. Really good. The program's amazing. Good. You look tired, I said. Busy week. He hesitated, then said. The house feels quiet. I felt a strange warmth in my chest. Do you miss me? He didn't answer, but his eyes softened. Yes, just that. One word, and it was enough to keep me warm through the rest of the summer. When I came back home, he was waiting at the airport. I wasn't expecting him to be there. Usually it was the driver. But he stood by the gate in a dark suit, hands in his pockets, and when he saw me, something in his face shifted. You've changed, he said as we walked to the car. Not really, I said. Yes, you have. You smile more. Is that a bad thing? No, just unfamiliar. We drove in silence for a while. Then I said, thank you for letting me go. He nodded. Thank you for coming back. When we got home, he opened my car door for me. And for the first time, I realized something. He wasn't just keeping a promise. He was trying to hold back something deeper. Something he wasn't ready to name. And maybe I wasn't either. Not yet. 1 week later, the press broke the story. Daniel West's mystery heiress. Who is the girl in his mansion? Photos of me walking into the art gallery. Me beside his car. Me in the garden, laughing. The headlines were everywhere. I wasn't ready. Daniel called an emergency meeting with his PR team. When I came downstairs that evening, he was already sitting in the study, staring at a glass of untouched bourbon. I stood in the doorway. Is this my fault? No. It was bound to happen. So what do we do now? We let them talk. That's it? You don't owe the world anything. But I owe you, I said quietly. He looked at me for a long time. No, you don't. We stood in silence, the air between us thick. Then he said, Emma, when you turn 18, this arrangement. I know, I cut in. The contract. The marriage. I haven't forgotten. Neither have I. But I don't want a contract, Daniel. Then what do you want? I stepped forward, heart racing. I want you to choose me. Not because of a deal. Not because of guilt. Because you want to. He didn't answer. Not that night. But I saw it in his eyes. A crack in the ice. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of something real. Chapter 5. Lines we shouldn't cross. The first snow of the season came early. I turned 18 the week after. Maria baked me a lemon cake. The staff decorated the dining room with fairy lights. It was quiet, tasteful, beautiful. Just like everything in Daniel West's world. But I only cared about one thing. Would he say it? Would he ask? He didn't. He stood beside me while I blew out the candles, handed me a velvet box with a diamond bracelet inside, then disappeared into his study before I could speak. He said nothing about the deal. Not a word about marriage. Not a word about me. I waited the whole night. The next morning, I knocked on his office door. He didn't answer. I walked in anyway. He was standing by the window, back to me, arms crossed. I'm 18 now, I said. I know. You said when I turned 18, we'd. Emma. His voice was low, warning, but I didn't stop. You promised. You said. I know what I said. Then why are you acting like it never happened? Because everything's changed. No, I said. Nothing's changed. You're just scared. He turned around, eyes sharp. I'm not scared. Then what are you? I'm trying to protect you, he snapped. From what? From me. The words hit the room like thunder. He took a breath, voice softer now. You don't understand what it means to be mine. I've been yours since I was 9. No, Emma, you've been under my care. That's different. Not to me. He walked toward me slowly, stopping just a breath away. You think this is love. But it's not. It's dependency. It's proximity. It's years of silence wrapped in longing. You don't get to decide how I feel. Maybe not, but I get to decide what I do with it. So you're walking away? After everything? He looked down at me. Eyes cold, but trembling. You don't want this future, Emma. Yes, I do. No, you want the idea of it. But I'm not the man you've imagined all these years. Then show me the real one. He hesitated, jaw tense. I could ruin you, he whispered. Then ruin me. He stepped back like I'd hit him. This conversation is over. And just like that, he left me standing there. 18 years old enough to choose, but never enough to be chosen. I didn't speak to him for days. He avoided me easily. Meetings, business trips, late night calls. But I knew he was still watching. I'd feel his presence when I walked through the hall. Catch glimpses of him behind doors. See my favorite desserts appear in the fridge like silent apologies. He didn't say it, but I knew. He was struggling, and so was I, because loving someone who doesn't know how to love you back is its own kind of punishment. One night, I found him in the wine cellar, alone. He didn't hear me come in. He stood by the shelves, fingers tracing the label of a bottle like it held an answer. You always come here when you want to be alone, I said quietly. He turned, startled. What are you doing down here? Looking for you. Why? Because I miss you. He looked tired. Emma, don't push me away again. You don't understand. If I let myself want you, then want me. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. You made a promise. But I'm not here to collect a debt. I'm here because I love you. He stared at me, frozen. You think you love me? I know I do. He looked away. This was never supposed to happen. But it did. He closed his eyes. I'm trying to do the right thing. Then why does it feel so wrong? I walked up to him, heart pounding. Close enough to hear his breath. To feel the war inside him. Say you don't feel it too. Look me in the eye and say it. He couldn't. Instead, he reached up slowly, brushed a strand of hair from my cheek. His hand trembled. I've thought about this, he said, voice shaking. More than I should. Then stop thinking. Just feel. And for the first time, he did. He leaned in. His lips touched mine. Gentle at first. Cautious. Like he was testing the edge of something dangerous. Then deeper. Like he couldn't stop. Like he didn't want to. I kissed him back with everything I had. Years of waiting, years of silence, years of needing him to see me. When he finally pulled away, his forehead rested against mine. This is a mistake, he whispered. Then let it be ours. But we both knew nothing would be the same. Because some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. And this one? We'd crossed it completely.